Books with Blue.
Today we are reading The Big Bunny and the Easter Eggs by Steven Kroll, illustrated by Janet Stevens. Wilbur was very big and very tall. He had great big ears and great big feet. And that was why he was chosen to be the Easter Bunny. He was strong enough to carry lots of baskets of Easter eggs. His legs were long enough for him to cross a road in a single hop. And because he delivered his eggs the night before Easter, he never had to worry about being seen. Everyone knows you're not supposed to see the Easter Bunny. This Easter, Wilbur had done all his work early. He'd woven lots of new wicker baskets. He'd dyed the Easter eggs and painted them with pretty designs. He'd made lots of jelly beans and chocolate candy. Everything was ready to deliver. Only on Easter Eve, Wilbur got sick. His head was stuffed up and his nose was runny. His throat was sore and he had a fever. His eyes were red and his ears hurt. Wilbur lay on his bed and groaned. Who was going to deliver the Easter baskets? Hours went by. It was getting very late. Wilbur's rabbit friends came and banged on his door. "Wilbur!" shouted Hector. "Wilbur, you have to get going." "Wilbur!" shouted Francine. "Wilbur, it's after midnight." "Wilbur!" shouted Charles and Henrietta. "Wilbur, if you don't go soon, the children won't have any Easter eggs." "I know," moaned Wilbur, "but I can't get up. I'm too sick." Wilbur's friends banged on the door some more, but Wilbur felt too awful to listen. He took some more medicine, rolled over, and fell back asleep. Charles and Henrietta talked things over with Hector and Francine. Something had to be done. If Wilbur wasn't going to deliver the Easter eggs, they would have to deliver them for him. Hector and Francine loaded themselves up with Easter baskets. Charles and Henrietta did the same. The baskets were so heavy, they could barely walk. The four of them struggled through the woods. "Hector," said Francine. "Hector, I can hardly see." "That's okay," said Hector. "Just try to follow me, Francine." At that moment, Francine bumped into Hector, and Charles bumped into Henrietta. Dozens of Easter baskets crashed to the ground. Broken eggs were everywhere. "I think," said Charles, "we'll have to come up with a different idea." He and Henrietta went to get her red wagon. Hector and Francine helped them load it with Easter baskets. When it was piled high, all four of them pulled the wagon to the road. Suddenly, the wagon hit a rock and turned over. The Easter baskets were scattered everywhere. "I don't think we can do this," said Hector. "Soon it will be morning," said Charles. "We'll have to make Wilbur get up," said Henrietta. When his fur rabbit friends got back to his burrow, Wilbur was still asleep. As they pounded on the door again, he opened one eye. "Wilbur!" shouted Charles. "Wilbur, you have to deliver the eggs yourself." "Wilbur!" shouted Francine. "Wilbur, there isn't much time left." Wilbur lay in bed, grumbling. He blew his nose and coughed. Hector and Francine ran into the burrow and dumped Wilbur on the floor. "All right," he said. "All right, I'm coming." He put on his earmuffs, his scarf, and his favorite jacket to make sure he kept warm. He put an ice pack on his head, a nice big handkerchief in his jacket pocket, and tucked a hot water bottle under his arm. "Hurry!" his friend shouted. "Hurry, Wilbur!" Wilbur shuffled to the door. "I'm going to do this because it's my duty," he said. "But you're going to have to help me." "Of course," said Hector. "Certainly," said Francine. "We're your friends," said Charles and Henrietta. Together, they helped Wilbur load himself up with Easter baskets. In a moment, there were baskets up and down his legs and around his ears. Finally, he was ready. Wilbur struggled out into the woods, with his friends pulling the red wagon behind him. He knew he'd have to hurry. It was almost daylight. But his joints ached and his head hurt. His nose was running and his cough was getting worse. He thumped up to the first house. Everyone was fast asleep. He left 2 baskets of eggs on the front doorstep. So far, so good. At the next house, he crept inside and left the basket by a little boy's bed. When he got outside, the sun was rising, and a paper boy was bicycling into the driveway. Wilbur froze. He was much too tired to run. The boy was sure to see him. At that moment, Francine jumped up and grabbed the newspaper out of the boy's hand. She tossed it to Hector, and the 2 of them thumped off across the yard. "Hey!" yelled the boy. "Come back with that newspaper!" And he ran after Hector and Francine, allowing plenty of time for Wilbur to escape. When the group was back together and Wilbur had caught his breath, he thanked Hector and Francine for saving him. But before he knew it, he was in trouble again. 3 houses later, he was leaving a little girl's room when he had to sneeze. He reached for his handkerchief, but not in time to prevent a huge "Achoo!" The little girl sat up. Wilbur dove under the bed. His ears and feet stuck out. At any second, he'd be seen. Then, Charles and Henrietta pulled the covers over the little girl's head. Wilbur jumped up and ran out of the house. That had been close. For the rest of the time it took to deliver the Easter baskets, Wilbur was always in danger of being seen. He hid behind trees and dove into bushes, but his friends had to keep saving him. Finally, all the eggs were delivered. Wilbur was so tired, he fell asleep. His friends had to pull him home in the red wagon. When the children started looking for their Easter baskets, they found them under bushes, on fence posts, and hanging from trees. It was the strangest Easter they'd ever seen, but they didn't mind. Easter had never been so much fun. Thank you for reading with me. Come back soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Books with Blue.